Hey guys, I know if you're tuning into my show especially, there's a good chance you watch a good amount of competitive Dota 2, a lot of those streams out there. And as we get into the new season, a site you should be looking out for is one called blinkpredict.com. It's actually a new way to watch Dota. It's actually free to play, but you can win Dota skins using your Dota knowledge. You actually predict things like the most last hits at X time, who will take the next Aegis, when will the next tower fall, etc. Honestly, a lot of these things that you would be doing normally in the game as well, more so for fun, but this is a way to actually earn prizes. Again, blinkpredict.com. Sign up with your email or your Facebook or your Google whatever, and then you beat the market by correctly answering in-game questions throughout a game and take points from the community. Check it out, guys. blinkpredict.com. Have some fun while watching some Dota. And now for the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DotPro show. I am BreakyCPK, going to be your host here, of course, and looking forward to another great week ahead of us here. And let me just say, I know these, for about a month, post-TI, things have been a little bit slower. We've been finding things to talk about here and there. We're starting to get some roster shuffling going on. This week's show, we're picking it up. We got a lot of content to go over. We got a lot to talk about. And, with that in mind, I don't want to take too much time here initially so we can get to all of the fun content later on here. But just to give you a quick preview, we're going to be joined by Black later on, the player Black here, of course, formerly of Team Faceless this last year, currently of no team. He's actually in the process of perhaps finding a team. We're going to be talking with him about all of that and look forward to it. Again, I know him from the early Han days. We go back, and it's really fun to be able to get him on the show and talk about how things are going. So we'll be joined by Black here later on to talk with him. We're going to be going over a lot of topics, myself and Zrock, as we do. He is back this week, of course, from the King's Cup that is currently going on to a lot of the leagues finally starting to get more information out there, from the invite teams to the regional qualifiers. The ESL major invites came out. The Dream League released their information. You have PGL qualifiers taking place. ROG Masters that is going on. And even some more roster updates. And then to finish it, we're actually going to be going over our power rankings. Both myself and Zrock will give our takes in terms of who we feel are the top teams in each of these regions, some of them combined even. Top 5 teams of the list that we're looking to do. Kind of get some good discussion out of it and some fun talking points there for you guys. So, but again, before all that, we're going to go into a quicker good, the bad, and the ugly. Starting with the good. So, as far as the good goes, pretty much what I just said. More information is finally coming out for all of these events. We've had the ESL major invites, as well as even the regional teams being announced. We have the King's Cup has started, and so we've been getting to see some live Dota 2 finally since TI7. Some great competition happening. There's been some quirks here and there. There's been some hiccups. There's been a couple of forfeits, unfortunately, with already some scheduling conflicts taking place. I'm sure we're going to see more of that. But overall, it's been a great event. They've been having fun with it. Star Ladder Open qualifiers are going on. The PGL Open qualifiers are going on, and as well as regional qualifiers announced for that. Dream League announcements are being made. Those qualifiers are going to be starting here very soon. Guys, it's happening. The season is finally beginning, coming up here. It's an exciting time for any Dota 2 fan, so it's given us a lot of content to talk about. I'm sure you guys are enjoying it already, and so much more to come as far as competitive Dota 2 is concerned. That takes us into the bad. The bad, however, is that we still don't have a patch. Here we are with these events now, starting with the qualifiers from Open and even regional qualifiers in some case. September 14th, I'm doing this recording. We've now officially been... Well, it's been a month since TI, right? I mean, I want to confirm this now. I'm trying to think of when exactly TI was. I was even there. TI ended on August 12th, so it's been over a month now since TI has finished, and there's still no patch announcement. I mean, I'm sure, I know I'm not alone in this, that, just antsy, it'd be fun to get a new patch out just for new content is always nice. But as we're entering a new season here with a lot on the line, ultimately, very competitive format, it's not fair to these teams that are playing in these qualifiers that are playing on one patch, and then, once the main events come around, all of a sudden we're in a different patch. And then on top of that, at this point, whenever the patch does now come out, teams are going to have very little to no prep time. These events are happening. It's not like all of a sudden these events are going to start changing their schedule or delaying their schedule, because it's already a chaotic time right now with scheduling conflicts. They have to stick to what they got for the most part. So really unfortunate we do not have a patch yet. I don't know what's going on. I have no insight in that, unfortunately. Not really anyone does. I know we're kind of all in the same boat here. I'm sure Valve is doing what they can to try to get a patch out. I'm sure this wasn't planned on their part. But as we've kind of been seeing, it seems like this whole new season in general is taking everyone a little bit more off guard than maybe expected initially, right? It's taking a little bit more time to get said information out, and thus we still have no patch. So, as I've said in previous podcast shows, I'll keep saying it. Hopefully we have a patch coming out soon here that we can finally start talking about and seeing where this new season is going to head as far as the potential meta even. So looking forward to that patch coming out. Not out yet. And then there's the ugly. Now, the ugly leads us into one of these events that currently is going on here. Actually, is the PGL. PGL Open Bucharest. It's a minor event, ultimately a $300,000 prize pool. They've actually had a couple of the regional qualifiers already take place, both South America and Southeast Asia. In the Southeast Asia qualifiers, there was a little bit of drama that came out a couple of days ago from Fnatic, actually, in the sense that basically the format of this event, so there's two complaints that I have here. One is the format of this event. It's a regional qualifier, ultimately to determine the Southeast Asian spot for a $300,000 LAN. The format they chose to do was 2 groups of 4 teams, best of 1 matches. Top 2 move on to a playoff, which then would be a single elimination playoff, best of 3 all the way through, even for the grand finals. What? I know this. We're setting up to have a lot of events this year, and ultimately this is a minor, but it's still $300,000 prize pool, and this is still a very big deal. This is the first minor coming up here, and they decided to go with a best of 1 group stages into a single elimination best of 3 4-team event. Yes, I understand the idea of time constraints, but this just to me feels like a very lazy way to go about it, and more of a behind the scenes them to say, we just need teams. We don't care what the team is. We'll try to get the best team, but we just need teams. Snapping their fingers, like make sure we get a team. Now I don't know if this was the plan from the beginning or if this is a reaction to as things went on, they realized that they were running out of time. I mean, perhaps that's the case, but the format itself, I really hope this is not a format we continue to see. Perhaps it is something that we just should expect to see because of time constraints and how many scheduling conflicts could happen with all of the events taking place. But anyone will tell you a best of 1 does not truly determine a MOBA game, let alone Dota 2. Best of 2, at the very least, best of 2, if not best of 3, is very ideal. But then that leads us into our other issue now of if you're going to do a best of 1 group stages like this, there's a very good chance you're going to have a tiebreaker. Apparently, the way they decided to do a tiebreaker for this event, in this case, there was a 3-way tie between Fnatic, Happy Feet, and Mineski out of Group A here. It came down to the time limit rule, which basically means the faster you finished your games, the better if there was to be a tie. Now, there is the argument being brought up that the organization PGL, this was in their rules beforehand. So yes, Fnatic technically knew this going into the event. But it just sucks. It still sucks, right? Like, well, part of me almost wants to say, who the hell reads those rules, first off? With so many events going on, are you really expecting teams to read through all of these rules, fine print? I guess you could argue the one that they really should look for is a tiebreaker, sure. But not even just the time limit breaking the tie. It's always been kind of just a silly rule to go by in the first place. There's just so many issues with that. The biggest one being it promotes teams to possibly turtle matches longer or GG out a lot sooner than they normally would, just because, perhaps even to help said team, or in the case of, a team that's playing against a team that may end up in a tiebreaker, they'll turtle the match as long as possible to make sure that they don't qualify. There's things that could happen that could unfortunately, really skew it one way or the other. And this is kind of what happened here to Fnatic. Thus, they got knocked out. In the end, we're not able to advance on despite having the 2-1 record right there. The cherry on top of this is that PGL then the next day, they announced for the future regional qualifiers and for some of these other regions now, they're actually not going to have the time limit rule. They're going to have another rule in place. I'm not even sure what rule they're going with. However, I still think they plan to have the best of one, which does suck. But the fact that they made this change, I think kind of shows that they realize themselves, like, okay, yeah, we were probably in the wrong to go with this rule set here. Perhaps it was also the outcry that happened, especially with Eternal Envy and the fan base that he has. I'm sure they felt a lot of pressure from that. But it sucks for Fnatic. And I hope this is not a taste of things to come when it comes to these qualifiers. More specifically, the format is what I personally am upset about. But again, with the format is what then led us into this tiebreaker situation. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, guys. We have a lot to talk about. But first, going to be joined by the one and only Black here. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, I am super excited to have my next guest on. I'm always excited to have guests on, of course, but this guest I go back with quite a bit, of course, to the early Han days, even. I'm going to be joined by Black here, the one and only. How's it going, man?
Doing all right. Pretty happy to talk to you again. Has been a very long time. When was the last time we met? Was it Boston Major?
But we did get to meet at Boston Major and talk briefly there, so yes, it was that. But then before that, man, it was forever, right?
It was ages, a couple of years.
I want to say maybe at a DreamHack or even Singapore way back when. It's one of the early days there.
Singapore, man, that was like 2010,
2011, yeah, so
something like
that. quite a bit, but no, it's great to be talking with you again, man, and obviously after. You've had so much success, I think it's safe to say, in the Dota 2 scene, including, up into this year now, we haven't won the Ultimate, of course, but overall, I think it's been a successful career. Would you say that?
Yeah, obviously the big prize is still out there, but it has been somewhat okay.
Somewhat okay,
yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Speaking of that, we'll kind of start there. So, happy to have you on. Now, part of me was kind of hoping we'd hear a team announcement by now. I thought we heard a team announcement a couple of days ago, good old South America, and we're like, oh, Black's going to DC South America, apparently. And then you're like, I don't know what this is about. So, what's the deal with that first? We'll just start right there. Like, why did that come out, do you think?
Okay, so what actually happened is, so they contacted me and got to talk to me. They were building a new team and they wanted to have me there as the experienced leader kind of person. But we never confirmed anything, or I never confirmed that I would join or anything. So it was just in the talks. And then I boarded the airplane, right? Then as soon as I landed, I was like, DC SA Black. And I was like, what? No, nothing like that ever happened. It must have been some, I don't know, maybe some guy leaked it. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but
yeah, it
was never officially confirmed. It was just in the talks, kind of negotiating around and stuff like that.
Got you. Yeah. So there's speaking of that, of course, the roster shuffle itself. from what I've been here, I mean, it can be pretty brutal sometimes. Sometimes you think you may have a deal and then you don't. Have you kind of been experiencing that in this roster shuffle here?
Yeah, a couple of times. Okay, so the problem is you usually get a lot of offers that are not really like made for the long term. There's a lot of people that want to just like build a short term team to just kind of play around together, maybe qualify for a tournament or two, but it's not what I'm looking for. That's also the main reason why I haven't joined the roster yet, because when I want to join a team, I want to at least play for best case scenario, like a year. But of course, if it goes like beyond that, it's even better. But a year is usually what you can hope for in Dota. And because I feel like loyalty and stability is very important, and that hasn't happened yet. And there were a lot of offers, as I said, for these like short-term plans, but I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff.
Okay. You've obviously been a world traveler. You played in Europe, or you played in Southeast Asia, of course. You played in China, I want to say. So you've been around. Is there do you just not care where you end up next in that sense? You just want the team is there a region that you just don't want to go to, or would you not mind playing anywhere again?
Honestly, the region doesn't really matter as much. I always try to go where I personally felt like I have the best chance to improve as a person as well as in Dota. So I traveled to, as you said, China, NA, SEA, Europe, pretty much everywhere except South America, I guess.
Okay, you have played in NA. I forgot about that.
For 6 months, I stayed in Canada.
Okay.
And then it's the downside to that, obviously, is you get very isolated from your friends, family. You lose a lot of friends and maybe even family contact because you're not there, right? I haven't been in Germany for over 4 years, so actually a lot of contact to friends and family kind of just doesn't exist anymore. But that's just some kind of sacrifices you have to make in order to pursue the goal that you want to pursue, I guess. Everybody has to make sacrifices in the end.
Yeah. I think that's one element to being a competitive, especially a pro player in the esports world, that people overlook is, especially in Dota 2, and in your case where you are traveling around making those sacrifices, that is something you do, again, have to sacrifice. The idea that your social life especially seems like can be hurt because you're just so focused on, wanting to win these tournaments, wanting to win these games, and doing, whatever it takes to do this. Is that fair to say that I guess you already kind of pointed that out, but is there part of you that's almost wishes that would take that back and want more of that social aspect, or are you excited and happy with where you're at?
Okay, honestly, I think everybody wants to have more social life and just talk to more people and kind of have fun with them, But if you want to compete and you don't put in as many hours as the other competitors do, you will fall behind instantly and you won't have any chance to compete at the top. That's why I'm pretty sure most of the people actually, it's not like they don't have a social life. It's more like they don't really have a lot of time to invest into their social life. So maybe an hour a day, maybe 2 hours a day. Because usually how it goes in Dota, at least, I don't know about other games. And I don't know about this season too. I'm just talking about the last 2 seasons with the 3 majors. Was you play all the way until the major, pretty much all day, every day. Then after the major, you have a break for 2-3 weeks. That's your social life, basically. Then after that, it goes back to that again. You play until the next major's over, 2-3 week breaks. Then the same until TI. So you have 3 longer break periods, I guess. But other than that, you don't really have any time to do a lot of other things other than gaming and strategizing, talking to your team, that kind of stuff. Because there's actually way too much to learn in Dota. Every new patch just reinvents the game completely. It's just a different game every time. So you have to start from zero pretty much.
I'm glad you brought up the tournament structure this year, especially because, it's something I plan to delve into a little bit too. So this year, it's pretty busy. That's what we're constantly hearing, right? There's just 11 majors, 11 minors. Are you intimidated almost as a player because of how many there is? Are you excited? What are your feelings on it?
I think there can never be too many tournaments because there's a lot of good teams that deserve to play at these tournaments. So let's say a team misses out on a minor because they feel like they have too busy of a schedule. Then another team could jump in there, which is just as deserving as the other team. Mm-hmm. So I think there can never be too many tournaments, and having these many tournaments might even encourage more people to start going pro, which would be very nice. So the scene just grows in general, and I hope it's like a step in the right direction. This format of the season, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think there needs to be more done to facilitate an amateur scene? I mean, you've been around for a long time. You got your name up there. You know, that's something you don't necessarily have to worry about. But for the growth of the game, the continued growth of the game, is that something you would like to see Valve even involved more in, or you do not really focus or worry about that?
I'm not entirely sure how Valve would want to do that. But like, let's say you're an amateur. There are a lot of online tournaments actually already that have open qualifiers. And if you are like standing out of your team, you know, like in your team, you're the absolute best, and you play against one of these like better teams that are in the same qualifiers as you, people will definitely notice. Like you will probably get a Reddit thread, you will get a lot of exposure, and you will definitely get your chance if you deserve one. Like sooner or later, you will just have to keep at it.
Yeah.
But like what Valve in particular could do, I'm not entirely sure. It's like very hard to make a scene grow as a like developer, right? Like, I'm not very development smart, so I wouldn't know.
You don't have all the answers, Black. Come on, I was kind of hoping to have
sorry.
you on to.
I'll figure it out and then I'll message you.
Get back on that, yeah, please. No, it's obviously a very, very difficult task.
It is, and you know, there's people that are really good at that, and I'm not one of them.
Fair enough.
I can't have everything, I guess.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to kind of, I guess I'm almost planned to, but now that I'm hearing you, you know, talk, it does sound like that you do want to play this season, right? Like you're ready to go. I guess where I was getting at is that, has there been the thought of this quote unquote retirement, at least Dota retirement, maybe taking the year off? Has that crossed your mind, or are you just full go?
I definitely want to play this season, but as I said, I'll have to wait until there's like an actual team that has like the same mindset about the game as I do when it comes to like longevity and stuff like that. But I think like the next team I'm gonna join, like no matter what or where, I'll like, because I felt like I didn't do as much as I could have last season, I'll definitely give like everything I have. And because of that, it might be, that's how I feel right now, it might be my last team. And like I just give everything I have, and then if it's good enough, you can reconsider. And if it's not good enough, then you might have to rethink your future plans.
You're still it's kind of a weird spot, because like I always bring this up, especially, you know, with my age. Hell, I'm 30 years old. In the esports world, that's pretty damn old, right? But in the real world, it's not necessarily that old. You know, both you and I, you especially, still overall younger, so still plenty of future ahead. But as we've kind of been over, it is a mentally draining, if anything. It definitely takes a lot out of you to do this grind when it comes to being a Dota 2 player.
As I said before, right, I can only talk about myself, like in this regard, but because I've been traveling around so much, I've constantly had to like invest so much time in learning like different cultures, all that stuff. It's very mentally taxing and very draining, and you kind of feel a bit lost after a while, you know, like emotionally. It's like a very big chunk of mixtures of feelings, and well, I can say that much. It's not a good mixture of feelings, you know. It's the bad kind, the one that doesn't make you happy.
Well, one that I that kind of, you know, made me, you know, appreciate you that much more, and to know tens, hundreds of thousands of people out there even. The Kiev Major took place, of course, and they played your profile video, and, you know, it kind of explained your story. How was that for you, getting that story out? Was that something that was important for you to let people know, or did they kind of just approach you and you're like, okay, I'll do it?
Well, there were plans a while back already to publish a video, but it never really happened. And at first I wasn't entirely sure whether I would even want to... Well, okay, I didn't want to share my story with the public. It just, after I thought about it for a while, it was pretty much the only, well, not the only way, but the best way for me to reach out to the public to maybe help a couple of people that are in the same situation as me, or maybe in a similar situation. that they shouldn't just, sit back and give up. Maybe encourage some people. Maybe just like, do the right thing. Or at least I thought it was the right thing. That's pretty much how we ended up producing the video.
I think it's safe to say it absolutely was, and again, it no doubt inspired a lot of people. You had myself and my wife tearing up watching it. It was a great story to hear, though. It was definitely a great story to hear. So I'm at least happy, and I know many are, that you got that out there.
Dude, you can't imagine, right? During the production, I was actually also like very, very sad. I teared up a lot. I don't know. It just like happened suddenly. I didn't have anything sad on my mind, and suddenly I just teared up. I was like, oh shit.
Understandable, man. Let's go back and so speaking of last year here as well. Of course, you were part of Faceless for that. I want to take back to the beginning of the year, going into Faceless. I'm sure expectations were high, right? Like this was a team that you almost expected that was going to do very well. Is that fair to say?
Well, honestly, I never played with any of them except Ice, so I didn't entirely know what to expect. I just knew Ice and I from Ouija. We had a lot of success together. So in that sense, I guess the expectations were somewhat high.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't too wrong at first. We actually had like a very dominant start of the season. And then it kind of plummeted later on.
Then, I mean, so not to bring up bad memories here, I guess, but so okay. Is it fair to say that it was a disappointing year overall, with how things went?
Okay, the thing is, before we built the team, we kind of like promised each other we would play together for an entire year. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that we didn't focus on winning, because if we did, we would have made a lot of changes like throughout the entire year to actually ensure that we are in the best condition, like player-wise and mentally-wise and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But we were more focused on, our promise in that sense, I guess, which isn't wrong. It's just like a different approach.
Okay. So it sounded like, maybe there were some team chemistry issues, is it safe to say, during the year, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like, as I said, at first we were like really dominant. We even had like a 27 series streak. Like we didn't lose a single series in like 27 games.
Yeah.
We went undefeated through the Boston Major qualifier, and then, it kind of just like got really bad from there. We got lazier. We got, just in general, we weren't up to par, like skill wise. But as I said, we refused to make changes because of like what we said beforehand. And
yeah,
like, it's hard to say that you don't regret it, but a promise is a promise, and I think like valuing a promise is very important.
Absolutely.
But it also showed to me that friendship is good, but if you want to win, it can't be the top priority, I think.
Yeah.
Not in competition, at least, not in business.
I agree there. You definitely got to be cut though sometimes, and you got to do what's best for the team, for the success sometimes, rather than that.
I mean, it's absolute best, right? If you can be really good friends on top of being very successful competitively, that definitely happens a lot of times. Like we have seen it with OG, now Liquid as well. But that's like the best case scenario, which you won't always have. Like if you dislike a person in real life, for example, you can still be good teammates. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like each other, but you can still be good teammates and win tournaments together. You don't have to hang out after that. It's just kind of like work.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You gotta focus on the prize. Focus on the prize there. So you played at Southeast Asia last year. We mentioned that you were a world traveler of sorts. You played all over the place. Is there a region that stands out to you as the most difficult region to play in? Because this is always a debate, right? So I figure you're kind of a great person to ask this question, over time, playing in so many regions. Is there one that really stands out to you where you're like, man, this was tough?
Well, I would say that was China, for sure. Like, China just has way too much talent in there, which is also the reason why I like China the most, because you had so much room for improvement. Like, so many people taught you things that you didn't even know of before, because the skill level there is just so high, and people are at matchmaking in those leagues anyway. They're just very, very serious, and they're very focused on winning. So you will learn a lot more than in other regions, in my opinion. Like, China kind of prepares you for the ultimate level of competitive Dota, I think.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to play there for foreigners, because none of them can speak English, like not at all. So basically, if you want to play there as a foreigner that has no idea about Chinese at all, you gotta take classes, you gotta learn the language. Otherwise, you will have no chance at all.
Yeah, just rely on pings and chat wheels.
Yeah, I mean that probably works in matchmaking games, but once it gets a bit more serious, you probably need to expand a bit.
That makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I also wanted to get at what role, because I know you were kind of swapping around even in Faceless. Is there a specific role that you are looking for? Are you in the mindset, I'll play whatever is necessary if I think it's going to help this team that I join?
I think I think with every pro player can play every role, in my opinion. Like, they need to be able to do that. Just how comfortable and how good they are and how used to it they are is a very, very different question. Like, personally, I think I'm best at position 1 and 2. Pretty much interchangeable, because sometimes you carry as mid, sometimes you carry as safe lane. These two roles are very, very similar, I think. And if you're a position 1 player, you should be able to play position 2 just as well, in my opinion. So these two roles is what I'm looking for in my next team if it's possible. But if they wanted me to play another role, I would definitely consider it. And if the change would happen, I would definitely try really hard to get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Put in a lot of work.
Hard support black coming at you.
But let's say you're position 5, right? I think the training priorities are very different. You're position 1 and 2, you need to play a lot more than watch replays. But let's say you're position 5, replay analysis actually gets so much more important. It's like for ward positionings, all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's a good
perspective. Yeah, no, I like that. That's not something I've really actually thought about, but that actually is a very good point when you look at that. So interesting. FPL has been taking place. I know you've been playing in that. Would you say, are you happy that FPL's going on? I mean, is that something that you think is good for the scene right now?
I like FPL a lot because it resembles real serious captain mode games a lot, and that's what I've been looking for a very long time.
Yeah,
I've actually played that in China. It's called CDC. It's pretty much the same thing, just Chinese players, and I loved it. It's just way better than matchmaking, I think, for competitive players at least. Simply because the environment is so much more, I would say, professional. Wait, does it make sense? Because everyone's tryharding. Well, most of the time, not always.
Most of the time.
Occasionally, you have some fun games.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's the best environment to train and to practice.
Yeah. You're all competitive players in the end, so even though there's not necessarily anything on the line, you're still giving effort.
Win.
So
you don't want to lose to anyone. Losing just sucks. Everybody knows that.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you lose or what you lose. Losing is just terrible.
It's not a fun feeling. Yeah, no, I've been casting a bit of it as well. I know the people have been watching quite a bit of it, so it's been a win for everyone. It seems like I do wonder how long it's going to last once the season does get going here, of course. But it's nice to have in the meantime.
Yep, I hope very long, because it's getting more and more active for now at least. But as you said, when the season starts, it's probably gonna be not played as much.
Well, so you haven't announced the team yet. I mean, I'm just putting this out there, Black. If your team doesn't come up in the near future, at least in the earlier part of the season, I could always use a co-caster for my cast. So, love to have you on for that.
Sure, I'll be on a couple of times if the timing is right and there's nothing going on. I'll come find you, or you come find me.
Exactly. No, that would be fun. But no, I know that at the same time you're a busy guy and grinding, trying to make it happen this year, as we talked about. So, Black, always appreciate it, man. Always good to talk with you. Best of luck, obviously, this season, and keep an eye on it. Any shout outs? Anything else you want to say?
Well, shout out to my fans who have been supporting me, even though has been rough times lately. So thank you for that, and hopefully we can make it better this year, right? Through hard work and dedication, and I believe, you have to believe.
You got the right mental attitude, that's for sure, man. So I'm sure something good's going to come along, and we'll be watching you play in some of these bigger events soon enough. So again, best of luck, man, and thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so fun to have Black there, talking about what he's got planned coming up. Which right now it's kind of in the unknown, but I'm sure he'll end up on a team here in the near future, and look forward to seeing what that is, of course. But now I'm going to be joined by Zrock here, and oh my God, do we have a lot to talk about? It's been a couple of weeks at least, if not more, but we finally have a lot to talk about, man.
We have plenty to talk about. Unfortunately, did have to miss out on last week's show, but I am back, and we got plenty to do.
That's right. You left me all alone last week. I just had to ramble on by myself.
When your brother gets married, you kind of have to go.
Yeah, I guess. Were you in the wedding at least?
Yeah, I was a groomsman.
Okay. I assume it was a good time.
It was a great time. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Just leave it at that. Huh? No details needed. All right.
No.
Well, where to start? I think it makes sense to start at the King's Cup here that is currently going on. Of course, this is the BTS event. Technically the North American qualifiers for what is their major, essentially. But they decided to kind of have some fun with it, call it this King's Cup here. And it's actually been a lot of fun. We have 8 teams from North America. Well, it was 8 teams. We'll get to that in a second. But
from the Americas.
From the Americas, yes. To be clear, it is North America and South America that are competing here. So, well, actually, that's a good point right off the bat. How is...
Because there's nothing saying they can't run a qualifier that combines the two, and then whatever team wins, they could even do this, and then an America and a South America qualifier. True. If they want to jam this as one of their slots, there's nothing stopping them. And this is one of the coolest things I've seen in the use of the new system so far.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to take the place of their North American, South American qualifiers.
I think this was a genius idea in a lot of ways by BTS, because... with how lacking information was coming out from a lot of these events that are supposed to be happening soon, this was a, no one's doing anything, let's do something kind of idea. And it's working.
It was quick. It was easy. It was something that, they only have 4 talent involved in it. It's just Dakota, Grant, Lacoste, and Jack. And so they could throw it together real quick and just, hey guys, you've been scrimming, let's play.
Yeah,
I think it was a genius idea because, as you said, every organization's dragging their feet on stuff. Took way too long, and I think it was a great idea.
Now, there are some unfortunate circumstances with it. We'll get to that. But rather than get to that, first, let's go ahead and start with the positives here with this event. Complexity Gaming, as of today, they even played earlier today, 10-0. 10-0. Undefeated.
It does not mean they're locked yet, though.
Well, okay, no, that's probably a good point to bring up. This is just the round-robin format, and then the top 4 move on to a playoff, and I believe it's just a single elimination playoff from what we're looking at here, and then, of course, into the finals. Best of 3 and a best of 5, and then the winner will then qualify for the BTS event as we're talking about here. But complexity is looking good.
Literally, as we're speaking, DC is going to be going for the chance to also match the 10-0. They've only played 4 games. They're 4-0 so far.
They are currently playing PPD's team, right? The
Yes, they are.
As they've been known as. So, well, focusing on complexity real quickly.
Yes.
Because I love this team. People know this. Well, first off, did you... Yeah, so we talked about this on last week's show, but I guess you weren't here when that announcement came out. So, quickly on your thoughts, what do you think of Limp and Chessie coming back?
Limp and Chessie they're not on the Dire.
No, complexity.
Oh, on complexity. Yes. I think Limp is sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I was too tunneled into the Dire game. I actually loaded it up on Twitch while you were talking. So,
nice.
No, Limp I think is a great addition to this team. I think he always fit in well with it. Him and Kyle get along on a level that the other Swedes didn't seem to. I don't think Chessie is adding much to this team, but the results are speaking for themselves so far. Mm-hmm. I thought when he was on it last time, he was their weak link. He just had some very, very great, powerful performances, but he had as many lackluster ones to match. He kind of reminded me of like S4 at the moment, where he can either win you the game or he's going to lose you the game. But Limp has always been fairly stable for them. I've always thought he was a great member on that lineup, and it's good to see them get back together. I think Chessie's been at the call house the whole time, hasn't he?
I believe for the most part, yeah. Just he's mainly been a sub/streamer for them.
Yep. His back injury took him out, and so he was laying low and streaming here and there, but I don't think he ever even left the house. So I can't say it was entirely unexpected, but it is a little weird to see the lineup without Hanskin.
Yeah, we're talking former State Green right here. It is, we don't have the full State Green by any means, but honestly, I think Moo fits in. He's shown that he fits into this core of what is obviously Kyle and Z-Freak in this case just fine, and I'm sure with the attribution of Limp and Chessie, when the announcement first came out, I definitely was super excited for it, and like we're seeing here, it's obviously already making progress. Now, I will say 10-0, it's one thing to look at a stat line in the box score, and it's another thing to actually watch the matches. Like, I don't know, I know that you've been busy yourself, so I don't know if you've really been able to catch much.
I caught like highlights of them. I caught little bits and pieces, and I've been talking to Swindle here and there about it, but I haven't gotten to watch too much of it. What I do know is there's a little bit of an asterisk there because their 10-0 is actually 7-0 with 3 def wins, and they got Earthshaker in 5 of those 7, I think. 5 or 6,
perhaps. I don't know.
They got Earthshaker in a lot of games.
Yeah,
but yeah, their wins look like they've been actually a little bit convincing for Complexity. We don't often see them winning games pre 30 minutes. They're looking pretty good.
Well, so what I was going to with that, and actually to be clear, I think it's only the one default victory because
DCSA didn't play their second game, right? They showed up late.
No. They played the first. They did not play the first game. They played the second game. So, but Complexity got a forfeit win there. But they actually beat Iceberg before they ended up leaving the event. So I believe they've only had the one forfeit.
Oh, you're
win,
right.
So
absolutely, yep.
Yeah, technically they're 9-0, but again 10-0 on the record here. But what I was going to get at is that I don't feel like this is. I'm not going to, as much as I'm hyped for Complexity. From what I've seen from them, yes, again, on the box score, it looks pretty impressive. But when you factor in both the teams that they have been beating, which are kind of newer and some rocky teams, on top of, it seems like that they've been getting off to pretty slow starts and then somehow, make it work out in the end, which is fine if it's a victory. But I haven't been overly impressed by them yet. So I'm kind of holding back from getting way too hyped about their record right now. But it is exciting to see, and it does mean something.
To be honest, this field had a lot of TI players in it. That's something that has to be noted. Pretty much most of this Dire lineup, you've got part of VGJ Storm, you've got DC. Even DCSA is a good chunk of the Infamous team that played. These are players that already were at TI, and Complexity was not. So yes, it's not an end-all be-all result. It's very early on in the season so far after the roster shuffles, but I think you can take something out of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, your hype isn't totally
it's
off base.
It's I don't want to be overhyped, but I am excited because this just does reinforce the fact that okay, maybe we have something here. Maybe Complexity. I'll tell you this. Speaking of bold prediction, we'll get to that later on. I don't know if this is really a bold prediction, but they're going to do a lot better than last year. I think it's safe to say with their roster that they have here. So it just fits. It just fits for them. Another team that's actually been pretty impressive is up there as well. VGJ Storm. Now Complexity beat VGJ Storm yesterday, but they're currently at an 8-4 result here. And of course, this is a team that was just announced here with this new roster. What do you think?
This team has insane potential. Ritsu is arguably the best carry in the Americas region. And then you tack on a core 3 that's played together now for a while in Sneaking, Francis Lee, and Stan King. I don't feel like this team has a ceiling. I think they could keep going up and up. The one question mark for them is going to be 747 once they hit a LAN. Eric notably has played very well in offline events, and when he gets to an online event, he is just a different player. He gets beat by people he's beat 100 times online. He kind of gets stage fright to a degree is how it comes off. So we're going to have to see. If he's matured a bit, if he's come together as a player and puts up some notable results at a LAN, I think this team could be one of the new powerhouses in North America.
Yeah, this is one that I really kind of want to get your opinion on, so I'm glad you really started with that there at least. But I kind of wonder now that you say that, this is fairly big organization in the way that, I mean, they're representing what's an NBA star, obviously, in Jeremy Lin, and, you know, China, obviously, with VGJ, it had some success this last year. Do you feel like that could be a burden for these players to an extent, or do you think they'll perform just fine under the name?
I hope not. What I'm really curious to see is what the contract is giving them. Is it just money, or is it access to the organizational structure, coaches, staff? Because what I'm always nervous about when these organizations cross regions this big, like, you obviously can't use your psychologist from China to help out your VGJ players in the US. They're not going to speak the same language. It's not going to work. So I'm hoping the organization is giving them the tools they need, but I don't think the name is necessarily putting any pressure on them.
Yeah. Well, it was honestly that this was one of the more surprising announcements, no doubt, that came out with the whole roster shuffle and teams. But because I don't think anyone would have expected VGJ or China organization to break through into NA. But I guess because of Jeremy Lin specifically is why we're seeing it. So he is trying to make that bridge, you could say, which I feel like is only good, right? Like, there's no bad side to this.
Nope.
That I can see. So
it's fantastic.
Another sister team, you can call it, as obviously it's very popular in China, not so much in the Western scene. However, on that note, obviously we did have the announcement of DC South America. Now, again, I talked with Black here. Really interested to hear kind of his side of the story. So apparently there was something a little bit there as to why that whole article came out with announcing him as part of the roster. But as we found out, that's not the case. And so this is just a full South American team here, really. Now, according to Wikipedia, they actually have like 8-9 players on their roster because of all the subs they've had to use. But I think their actual roster is HFN, Atun, King Tekka, Matthew, and King RD with what they're going right now, at least.
It's supposed to be the South American super team. That's the idea behind all of this. Whether it ends up working out that way, we're really going to have to see, because they most notably didn't get Tomato, who I think at this point has broken through. He is known by a lot of people, and a lot of people have respect for this guy now. And their first results out on the field did not look very, very solid.
No.
I'm really curious to see how this is going to go, because HFN and King Tekka, notoriously difficult to get along with as individuals. When you put them both on one team, I can't imagine living in that team house.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I kind of just wonder, not really wonder, but as far as the results so far, the results have been kind of lackluster as you're getting at. Again, they opened up really weak. They lost to Icebergs Esports, which was the open qualifier team, with Charlie, Bryle, Brax, Jabs, and Clairvoyance there. So that was a little bit of a surprise in some ways. But then they went on to forfeit their series against VGJ Storm. And then most noticeably, this happened a couple of days ago, they actually forfeited what was the first game against Complexity because they just simply showed up late.
Yeah, they just couldn't find 5 players to play. So, and this is an issue. Are they not in a team house yet? Like, I need to reach out to some of the South American people, and hopefully I'll have some more news for you next week on this. But I don't know, because in Brazil and Peru, you don't need a passport to go across those two. You just need an ID. So there's no reason these 5 shouldn't be in a house yet together.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where all these conflicts are coming from, or where all the struggles are for them to play, but there's something going on there, and it's odd for sure.
Well, this also leads me to the DC organization as a whole. It feels like that something's going on, because the DC South America team, let alone the DC team itself, I don't believe there's actually been any official announcements on these rosters. Yet the first time we saw both DC SA and then the DC roster was in this event, actually. Was their debut playing in this event without any announcement beforehand. So that just feels off to me. Like, where's the hype, right? Like, what are they doing when it comes to announcing it?
It is bizarre, because Digital Chaos most notably has always announced their roster changes. They've had big posts on Reddit, and they've always done this little press break for everything. So I don't know what's going on with all of this. It's very bizarre.
We are on day number, 7 here. We have 3 more days left, so it's like 10 days in total. One other thing I wanted to kind of go on a topic with this event here before moving on in total is the idea of the format of this event, now, again, in the beginning, it sounded like a great idea, and, you know, the hype was there because, like I said, they were filling a gap where nothing was really happening. They figured, let's put this together, make it work. As other events are starting, though, we are starting to see a little bit of now schedule conflict. And do you think that this is a precursor to an issue where these qualifying events may have to be careful with their format? Because this is an event that lasts over, 10 to 12 days?
Nope. I love conflicts like this. It is entirely up to your manager and your organization to decide where you're playing and how. I love it when this stuff comes up because we shouldn't be having the best teams able to play every tournament. I've been very vocal about this. And I absolutely think that having to pick and choose is going to be a huge part of this major, minor, and third-party system.
Yeah. So you're fine that, because essentially what I know that I believe Iceberg dropped out because of this reason, and then DC South America, you know, a couple of their forfeits may have had to do with conflicts as well. In fact, the Complexity Series, I think they were playing late the night before, which is what also caused issues for them showing up late to that game one of that series with another event in itself. So, but you don't think events should be careful about their formats, and maybe because there are other qualifiers that have only limited themselves to 2 days compared to this.
I think they need to be public about it. I think they need to be very blunt and say you might be playing as early as 8 a.m. for these next 10 days until potentially midnight, 1 in the morning, or, you know, these other orgs that haven't put out their info yet needed to get that info out earlier so that teams could have made that decision before all this started. But I'm totally fine with even a $5,000 tournament taking 2 weeks, as long as they're open about it.
Okay. Well, that's something I guess the teams will just have to, you know, get used to here as the new season moves on here.
It's going to be a learning curve. It's going to have teams dropping out of tournaments early on and, you know, signing up for something, starting it, and realizing, oops, the major qualifier's coming up and we want to play this. But that's got to happen. We need to get to the stage where teams aren't dropping out like this. They're just not playing some of these things because they don't have time.
One other team we haven't really talked about yet, and obviously we should at least mention here, is the PPD stack, the Dire, as they are known as currently. It was really interesting to hear how this roster came about. XEG. Oh, God. I don't know about that.
I mean, it kind of is. Demon played on EG, PPD, Zai.
Wait, Demon?
PyCap?
Demon's not part of this roster.
Long time ago.
No, but he's not part of this roster.
He's on Tuho now, but he played with them in this event, didn't he?
Oh, I guess, yeah, he was a sub for the first game. You're right, yeah. Because, Zai was actually at what was a wedding for Clement. Freaking, what's his?
Yeah.
Puppy, yeah. Anyway, so, he was out there, so, Timo was ringing. But
yeah, PyCat was on old EG. Like, a lot of these guys have been involved in the organization for a long time, and Peter's, I'm sure, gotten to know a lot of them. And I have high hopes for this roster. You've got some very smart people. Getting to see PPD coming back as a captain is going to be nuts. CCNC gets a shot on a real top-tier team, so we're going to see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it.
This is not the Wanted. This is an actual team that PPD specifically plans to compete with. I will say, though, in their debut match against Infamous, they look bad. I know that because again, you really got to be careful because Zai was away, as we said. Demon was playing the 4 or the 5 even, and then they had Misery playing the off lane. Yeah, they had Misery playing the off lane. So there was a little bit of something there, but I guess my point is that people need to really relax on this team. And even though they got 2-0'd and looked bad, I don't think that's a bad thing overall. It's still a team that's new together. And
they got Infamous. Like, that's the thing. A lot of these guys, especially, PPD's had some time off. He hasn't been playing against these kind of teams. They played against South America, and they got ran over by South American Dota. That's what happened. If you were going to lose to an NA team, maybe it takes 40, 50 minutes. Infamous just got a lead, ran at you at 12 minutes, and ended the game before 20. I'm not taking anything away from the potential of this team yet by that opening series.
Oh, no. And, as you said, they're actually playing DC right now on this day. I don't know how that's even going, but I will say the final day of this event is where it really gets good. Because the final day of this event right now, how it's scheduled, at least, again, we've been having schedule changes throughout, so who knows. But right now, it's set to be 2 games. The first one's the Dire versus Complexity, and the second one's DC versus Complexity. So that's going to be a really fun final day. That's this Sunday, actually. And that'll give us a good idea for all of those teams as far as where they stand amongst one
absolutely.
another. So.
I'm super excited to see how that goes, because that is going to be, as I said, kind of the benchmark moving forward.
Yeah. So that's what to look forward to this event. Again, then the top 4 move on to the playoffs. Then they ultimately play for that spot on the at the main event here for the Beyond the Summit. It's major, right? No, the minor. BTS minor, sorry. Just to be clear.
All right. That was a long time on King's Cup. We got plenty more to go. Let's keep plowing through here.
Let's do that. All right, so next one is pretty simple one, really. The ESL 1 Hamburg. I know this is something that you've brought up constantly as far as it's coming, but we don't have any information yet. Well, we got some information, man. And actually, there's even a little bit more information that came out today, so let's just go over all of it here. Sure. First off, the invites for ESL 1 are pretty expected. Liquid and Newbie. Top 2 from TI7. They're going to the first major. Shocker.
Hey, but hey, that's good. I mean, that's very good that we get to see essentially the rematch, because there's been no announcement of roster changes on either team as far as I know. So it's nice to get to see a straight rematch coming up.
Yeah. And then they also did announce all of the regional qualifiers and who's planning to take part in those.
Yep.
As I'm going through here to kind of clarify. So, like, real quickly going through, let's see if we notice anything that stands out. I mean, NA, it's pretty expected. There are also open qualifiers for all the regions, too. Wow, there's going to be 12 teams in each qualifier.
Yeah, they're going to do, like, pseudo double elim. They're going to slot the top-tier invited teams into round 2 already.
Okay, so yeah, the top teams will be probably going to the quarterfinals. And yeah, there's 4 open qualifier teams. Does they really need to be 4? That seems a little overkill to me.
No,
that feels
they're
very
not.
overkill.
It's just the bracket they wanted, and they must have decided they wanted this many teams. A lot of times when you're talking a big organization like ESL, they sell to their ad providers by saying we'll be on this many games. Mm-hmm. Like, I know for CSGO, ESEA Pro League, that's a huge part of it. Like, they get told you're going to have this much exposure, this many ads ran, and then they from there backwards reverse it into, okay, well, we need this many games.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it's a business decision more than a format decision. But I mean, yeah, the South American qualifier is probably the only one I want to super quickly touch on, because I don't know how you find 12 reasonable teams in South America, but they're going to try. Like, one of the teams they have listed doesn't even have players listed on the roster yet.
And their name is Team Unknown. Go figure.
The only other South American team to make a major prior to this year, they went to ESL 1 Frankfurt, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I thought that was just a coincidence or irony, I guess, even. But that actually is a team. And
Frankfurt Major 2 years ago, they were the only South American team to ever make a major until SG Esports.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay.
So we'll have to see what they're going to do there. But yeah, just something about that's just bizarre. I don't know how you're going to get 12 teams in South America to play. But
yeah, when you're inviting 8 teams to each region for this major and then having 4 open qualifier teams on top of that, there's going to be a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are involved.
I will say NA looks good. When you're just looking at team names and lineups, NA's region looks stacked. And we'll touch on that more later, but it's impressive.
It is. This is the year NA is going to look really good, in my opinion.
There's one team on this group of 8 that raises question marks to me, and it's Wheel, who made a decent run towards TI anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they got real close in their open to get in there.
But it's like, who would you buy outside of that, right? Where maybe the Iceberg team and the Kings that we saw, but are they even really a team technically still? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that looks like a good region. SEA is always fun because it's just no one knows.
Yeah. And I'm glad Tuho got invited here. They're breaking through. Team Tuho, you're Insane and Mickey, my boys.
It's true.
Getting some respect in Europe. Yeah, they're going to start seeing a little bit of that here. So, But yeah, so really not much else to go over there, though. It's kind of just expected. And like I said, when you have so many invites.
Well, there is one roster thing. Did you talk about this new team from China for the Dream last week?
I did not actually, no.
Aggressive is back.
Okay.
CDEC Gaming Aggressive. TI winner. People are going to be pretty excited to see what he does here. I mean, he played on LGD for a little bit. He was on VGJ very, very briefly. I think he played for LGD going into the qualifier for a little bit as a sub. I don't know. He's been in a little bit of a weird spot, but I'm excited to see what Aggressive can come back and do.
Okay. He's their one position. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For the Dream there. Yeah, no, China's, as always, stacked. Like, who knows what's going to happen there.
Yep.
IGDs, LGDs, eHome. Vici Gaming, VGJ Thunder, and For the Dream, as you mentioned. And even those open qualifier teams, I'm sure, are going to be really good, too, knowing China. Probably
So,
another region.
we'll have to see there. But we'll
when
dive
do
into
they
that
start?
a little more.
These start next
week.
Yeah,
Yep.
the 21st for really
They have
most
to,
of them.
man. This tournament is in like a month.
That's
and these
crazy,
people
man.
are going to have to get passports and visas, and they literally have a month from next week.
Yeah, and it's only a 3-day event. Also,
Yeah.
like that kind of goes back to my point earlier, where this is only a 3-day event, where the King's Cup again lasting over 2 weeks here seems a little over the top, perhaps. But
I don't know. This is just bizarre. I'm really not impressed with the way ESL's handled this. Like, these players, if they don't already have their passports ready to go and their visas ready to send the day this is over, I don't think some of these teams are getting there.
yeah. All right, another event taking place coming up here. PGL, the Open Bucharest was announced. The minor here. It's a $300,000 tournament. First off, we'll go over the invite teams that were announced. Not much to go over here, but the invite teams ended up being EG and LGD Gaming. Now, obviously that kind of raises some eyebrows off the bat, but I think the biggest thing to really remember here is that, again, we don't know who they perhaps asked. Like, there's probably a good chance they did ask Liquid and even Newbie, and they were already busy going to a major in ESL 1, as we just talked about, and that's why they had to then resort to these teams instead, kind of going down the line.
Because, I mean, you'd essentially have to go straight. You'd have to go straight from Bucharest over to Germany, which, to be fair, is not a terrible trip. But you'd end it on the 22nd. You'd start playing on the 26th. So, not a lot of overlap time.
But I mean, this is good to see, though, right? Like, because this kind of goes to the idea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there are some business reasons in the two they got as well. You're getting essentially the two biggest fan bases in esports. LGD is probably the largest organization out of China, and EG is the most rabid fans out of North America. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to see this. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this shapes up. The qualifier teams are super surprising. Well, one of them is super surprising. So we'll have to see how this goes moving forward.
Okay, I'm curious to which of the qualifier teams, Mineski or Digital?
I'm Mineski for sure.
Okay.
Well, you still have Thebans TNC there playing in that. You still had Execration. WGU has a stacked lineup right now. Even Fnatic's lineup now with Pilot Eye and Envy. This region just had a lot of competition, and to see Mineski be the ones to come through on it was definitely surprising to me.
So I didn't get the chance to watch really much of this because of the time zone, of course, and everything. But I will say, and I talked about this in my opening segment here, in fact, this had a little bit of drama in the beginning with the whole Fnatic situation there, the new Fnatic squad, of course, the Eternal Envy and crew. They actually got a 3-way tie with Happy Feet and Mineski in the group stages, and they ended up having the time rule limit in, which then knocked out Fnatic, sending on Mineski and Happy Feet in their play. So now it was there in the rules from the beginning and everything, but as I stated in the beginning too, in the opening segment there, it's just the idea that this just seems like a lazy format for a qualifier, a best of one round robin like this, that you're going to have a tie most likely, as they did here, and then that's the way they solve it. So it did kind of this really wasn't that may be why Mineski, nothing against them, but maybe kind of they squeaked in as they did, because they took advantage of a format that was a pretty simple one.
I mean, okay, if this was like 2 game round robins, I would be fine with the time rule. 3 is really, like, just 3 singular games is such a low sample size to decide this that, yeah, I absolutely see why it rubs Fnatic the wrong way. But if you did know this going into it, your second win took 50 minutes. If you knew if you won that game, it was coming down to time, you got to pick a push strat.
Yeah.
Like, they got to have the last game in this tournament for their bracket. So at that point, they already knew that if they won that, they were in the 3-way tie, because it was against Clutch, the team that didn't have a shot anymore. So they could have done some very aggressive, try to win the game hyper early strategy, won it in 20 minutes, and then moved on. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I understand it's frustrating for Fnatic, but it was in the rules right away, and they even had the advantage in knowing their position going into the last game.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really feel bad for them at that when their second win took 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was not an early game team.
Again, my thing is just the format of this event as a whole. I know it's a minor only, but we're still talking about a $300,000 tournament, a pretty legit event here, to get a team qualified to it by running a best of 1 14 group into a very simple, straightforward single elimination playoff. It wasn't even a best of 5 finals. It was a best of 3 finals. Like, this just feels like we just need teams. Let's just make sure we get teams like ASAP. You know, it's just like, let's get it done. Snapping the fingers. Well, yeah. I guess we got that. So we got
I can see that. I understand that, yeah, it feels a little lackluster given what we've seen out of other big events in the past. But I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more like this going forward. I don't think this is going to be unexpected as we move on. We don't have the time to grind games till 4 a.m. playing tiebreakers. We don't have time to run double elimination playoff brackets with a best of 5 final. It just really doesn't exist anymore. And I mean, yeah, maybe there were some ways they could have smoothed it or done a little more to it. At the very least, a best of 5 final or something. But I don't hold anything against the org for doing something like this. It's a new realm. It's a new time. And this is what they decided to try out. So...
yeah, you are right. Yeah, this could be a side effect of, again, with the very, very busy schedule that we have, to be fair. I mean, they are still 2 worthy teams in a lot of ways. Again, DCSA out of South America and SK out of Southeast Asia. We keep saying those 2 teams because, again, the other ones haven't been figured out yet. Europe, CIS, North America, and China. They're going to be taking place throughout this next week here. I believe they're in the open qualifiers right now for all of them. And then the main events will start here soon.
Yeah, I think they all start on the 18th. For anyone checking your calendars, China is supposed to start tonight. All of the other regions, North America, Europe, and NACIS and Europe are all supposed to start on the 18th. So for anyone looking to watch some of that Dota, it will be coming up here on Monday. Basically, as soon as the King's Cup groups end, they take a couple days off, and that's going to be this qualifier.
Actually, the European qualifier, there was actually the open qualifiers. I've been watching some of that because, you know, something to watch here throughout this week here for both PGL, and there was, what was it, the Star Ladder I-League, I believe.
You just want to see if Tuo was going to make it.
Well, there was that, and Tuo unfortunately got knocked out in the first day, so that happened. But... no, but I'm looking at... wait, although this is NA, that's why. Let me find the Europe one real quickly. But there was actually a pretty big upset. Freaking Cinderin squad also got knocked out. It was like in the round of 16 to an unknown team. I didn't recognize anyone on that squad. Cinderin, Mage, Era, Hanskin, and Jonathan Fan, those guys there. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't know anyone on that team either.
Was surprising there. And they're in the semifinals right now, so the winners of each of these then move on to the regionals. Anyways, that's just... you know, we'll find out what the teams are and see what comes of it. So by the time the next podcast rolls around, though, yeah, we'll pretty much be possibly starting to talk results there and knowing all the teams here for this event.
Bone 7 Dota's still in it.
Oh, is he? Yeah, his team's
Bone 7 and Come With
trucking.
Me's team. Yep. And then Nikwa's team, that we, it was with Moxie. I cast them in a CIS tournament. But... yeah.
Yep, the SFTE there, yeah.
Still got a couple known teams left in the open qualifier in the top 4. But yeah, Let's keep moving forward. We got lots to do.
Let's do that. Well, yeah, we passed over one, did we? according to my outline.
I was
here.
very glad because I don't know what to talk about in this one. The format's so weird, but sure, let's talk about this one.
See, it's funny you say that because I was kind of hoping you would be able to enlighten me on this format.
But we can try to break it down,
I'm glad that I'm not the only one then, because... So, okay, what we're talking about the Dream League here. So Dream League announced their regional invite teams to the event here for each of the regions. However, they're combining Europe and CIS as well as North America and South America. Now, as we know, you need to have a team from each region qualify for your main event. So apparently they're going to somehow work around that idea where the teams will play against each other from those regions, but they'll make sure at least a team from each of the regions makes it on.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the idea. Basically, they wanted to do a secondary LAN is the one thing that I got out of this. Wait, is that the right one? Oh, I'm talking ROG Masters, not Dream League. Okay, the ROG is the one I didn't want to talk about. Yeah, so no, they already vaguely alluded to wanting to do EU and CIS together. And they explicitly stated that worst case scenario, basically, they're going to break it all the way down to knowing the top 4 in order. And if it ends up being 2 teams in the same region in the finals, they'll play out for third, and the third place team will be the one moving forward. So we will be guaranteed to still get one team out of each. What I'm hoping that this means is Dream League is paying players out for the qualifiers. That's what Dream League did in the past for their Dream League seasons, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if that's what they do going forward here as well.
Now, I'll say the plus for this, at least in the European CIS region, is that it makes the qualifiers that much more interesting, right? Compared to if you did have 8 teams from each of the regions individually. It does seem to get a little oversaturated, especially at, like you said, South America. Like, it's getting a little ridiculous.
Yep.
But I then there's the other part of me that just, it feels off to me, that the idea that you're playing against teams that in a way aren't necessarily competing for the same spot that you are, yet your games against them still matter, right? Like, there's something about that just feels off to me. Like, I gave the scenario even, like, what if in this case, by the way, I haven't even announced the teams, but real quickly, what if Team Liquid, for example, out of Europe, they defeat all of the European teams, but then they lose to all of the CIS teams, and that ultimately gets them knocked out?
Yeah, so if it was a close qualifier in their region, they'd be moving forward, but instead they're getting beat by international competition. And I think this is a cool idea. I really do, because it is going to give us essentially a preview of what to look at going into the LAN final, getting to see some of these regions square off, and it can build rivalries. Not enough people talk about the storylines in a tournament, and we saw a great storyline this year with Liquid. They ended up being the underdogs coming through and fighting their way through, the swarm of Eastern teams, and they built this huge just fan base around them because of that storyline being built. And when you do qualifiers like this that are confined to a geographical region, those storylines can start to play up. Because as you said, maybe Liquid beats all these CIS teams and loses to every European team and still squeaks forward. That doesn't matter. But then you start getting to the point where, Liquid can beat the CIS beaters. They start developing their own identity within the region. And so I really like what this could do because of that, where you have more localized tournaments, kind of.
Yeah. But
yeah, we'll have to see. It's definitely an experiment because, the Wikipedia page is a disaster. I've checked this every week because we've been talking about this ever since they had the snafu where they realized they didn't have a way to set up that you were going to get a Europe and a CIS team in.
Yeah.
And it's just gone back and forth and changed 1,000 times. Like right now it says there's only going to be 6 teams in it, which obviously can't work. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I am okay. So I'm actually getting a little bit better of a grasp now. Okay, so I guess what I wasn't aware of off the bat. So they're actually not inviting any teams. They are.
No, they are not.
You have to qualify. That makes a lot more sense to me. Okay, so it's then going to potentially be like 3 teams from Europe and 1 from CIS, or it could be 2-2 split, whatever. Okay, and then for North America, South America, though, they are actually individual
splitting them. Yep,
qualifiers.
I just saw that.
I just saw that too.
You and I both saw it. Yeah, okay. So the Wikipedia page is wrong. One of the EMEA qualifiers is going to be a second Americas qualifier, and that'll be what we have. And then it will finally be right. But, yeah.
Okay.
We'll,
So let's go over the teams real quickly, because we've been talking about the format and everything. Haven't really mentioned the teams. So the teams they invited from Europe were Liquid, OG, and Secret. And then you have an open qualifier team. And then from CIS, it's Virtus Pro, Team Empire, Vega Squadron, and then an open qualifier team. Off the bat, I mean, it makes sense to me. Is there anything do you think they got wrong there?
No, I think that's perfectly fine. Nothing about that jumps out as bizarre to me.
Yeah.
I think you have at the very least, you have the biggest fan bases and like the most known teams. Yeah, there might be a slight, like, you could make an argument maybe Spirit is better than Vega, or I don't know, but that's what the open qualifier slot's for. So yeah. I think it's fine.
Maybe Na'Vi too. Maybe Na'Vi too.
Oh, was that not a joke?
They got Dendi, man. They got fans. They got a lot of fans. That is true. All right, so for North America, South America, we have EG, the Dire in DC, and then an open qualifier team, and then South America, Infamous, DC South America, SG Esports, and their open qualifier team. Backtrack, NA. Yes, I did say the Dire as one of those teams.
You have to. You don't know about them yet, and you had to get the announcements and invites out. This is a must-invite team right now until they prove they don't deserve it. This is a team that by name alone will get handed invites for a while.
When I saw this, my, of course, immediate reaction was, how dare you disrespect Complexity like this? I calmed down a little bit. Man.
They're known to grind. They got that qualifier on lock.
But you even said yourself that NA is actually getting pretty tough. Like,
it is. There
are some legit teams, especially now with this new Immortals team. Again, we'll talk about that later on, but you got that. You got Leviathan. You got these other squads in here that could definitely give them a run for money. VGJ Storm, another team there. So the fact that my biggest issue is that we have a team coming together that's really a whole new team. Completely a whole new team. Complexity at least had a core three that brought on two players from history that used to play together on this same team. They just kind of brought them back in a sense.
So we're going to run through a little hypothetical here. You're Dream League, and you're Milton, the guy who organizes all this with his group and his board, and you're talking about what teams you're going to invite. And you're sitting there and you go, okay, well, TI just happened. We don't know who's going to be good. We don't know what's going on. EG's a guaranteed invite if they'll take it. The fan base alone makes that a profitable thing for you. DC, I mean, they at least played. They were in TI. They were there. Okay, that's fine. Then what do you do past that? I mean, to me, EG the Dire is just the biggest story right now. You don't have results post TI for any of this to decide who you're inviting. It's not like they waited till Complexity went 10-0 in King's Cup, and that, like, I don't even think that would have been nearly enough as a determinant. But when I look at the names on this list, when I see Zai, Misery, PPD, Pycat, like, that's a team I want at my event. Those names have just been around for so long, and they're so huge that I want to see what they're going to do. And even if they bomb out and they're terrible, you're still going to have people chanting PPD in the crowd.
This does take me back to when I saw this, my reaction. I also kind of had to say to myself, all right, I'm being biased here, perhaps. I don't want to be a hypocrite also, because what I was also kind of get done and planning to talk about here and bring it up now is that there is the business side to these tournaments. And as you're getting at, yes, I do understand that there is the business side as far as the attraction goes. I see why they're going with the Dire. Just like PGL perhaps went with EG and LGD. Again, we don't know if they actually asked these other teams, but I do remember seeing comments like, oh, what is PGL screwing up again? Why aren't they invited? It's their event. They're trying to make sure that they also get their exposure out there and they get their return on it.
We have more LANs than ever this year. Filling seats is going to be harder than it's ever been. And it's already proven hard in places like Germany, in Sweden for Dota, in a lot of these places to actually fill these LAN centers up. That's why a lot of these LANs are only going to be 3 days. And I absolutely am okay with them kind of doing the fan service invites a little bit. As long as we still have competitive teams there, and I think we absolutely do, then I don't see this as any sort of a problem.
Yeah, and seeing the counter arguments or the arguments that Valve should be stepping in and not allowing, it's just like the whole reason, like, they're working with these third party tournaments to put all this on. They're not taking over the scene and, you know, saying you do it our way or hit the highway by any means. And so they do respect that business side. And that there is a little bit of, and I understand the caution of like, well, this could set a bad precedent and just going for popular teams. But I truly feel like that's not going to happen. And the teams like a complexity, for example, if they really do deserve to earn said points towards later on, they will always have that open qualifier chance.
Well, and that part's absolutely true. And there's still a publicity game they could play better. Complexity could have Swindle put up more content, could have Moo actually start talking on his stream more about Complexity and building a little bit more hype. And, you know, there will be some game to play going forward in this where your teams need to be putting out content and actually doing more to keep your team as a known team and building your own fan base. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of teams right now have just been, oh, we won a tournament, we got fans. And we haven't seen very many teams go back to that old school, you've got one good streamer that's on the team and loves the team. And I'm curious to see what that'll do going forward. And I think there's a huge caveat that has to be said that we still just don't have info yet. The tournaments we're going to have next March, April are going to be a lot more known as to what teams are good, what teams are bad. Right now, this is super up in the air.
Yeah. Well, another event that's had an announcement come out, but so it sounded like that you were confused, and so am I, honestly, on this one too, a little bit, is the Great Rog Masters event that's been having qualifiers here start up. They had an interesting announcement come out where, so the title is basically takes over Krefeld, Germany, for the regional finals EMEA.
Yep.
So what I'm getting from this is that for one of the regional qualifiers, they're essentially going to have a LAN portion.
Yep, they're going to do a LAN closed qualifier. Yep, exactly, for your Europe. They're still going to have their Americas qualifier. They're still going to have their APAC, their Chinese Pacific qualifier, but they are going to do a LAN final for their Europe one.
Now, you've talked about this, how you actually think that this is something that would be great to have in general, right? Like, so this should be good news.
Yep. Because they are actually paying out for it. They've announced there is going to be a prize pool for this qualifier.
Okay.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's absolutely one of the biggest things that you can do. And the timing is super cool. What they're doing here is there's a CSGO event that Saturday and Sunday. They're tacking the Dota LAN event on Thursday, Friday. Mm-hmm. So for anyone that wants to go travel or was already planning on going and being there and watching CSGO, a lot of them will come in on Thursday or Friday. They can catch a day's worth of tickets and go watch Dota. Or if you go to watch Dota, you can stick around for 2 days and watch what should be a really cool CSGO event. So I'm really excited.
I would have been a little more excited if Team Tuho qualified for it. Unfortunately, they lost in the finals to Let's Do It, which is the former alternate attack squad there. And those guys, Exotic Deer Nisha, Patos, Elisa, and Kakor. So, unfortunately, we're not going to see them, but Let's Do It deserving. Yeah. And it is kind of cool to see all of a sudden now this idea, though, coming out with the regional qualifiers being on a LAN and how it plays out for them.
By the way, for any listeners, because there's not a lot of time on this, it's a month away, the tickets are free to this event. So if you're in Germany, you want to go watch, go on this their ROG page for this. You just go onto Eventbrite, sign up for your tickets, and they're free.
Oh yeah, you're right. 350 tickets looks like.
Yep.
Up for grabs.
Yep. The front seats are all going to be totally free if you sign up first. So any listeners that just posted this page like 2 days ago, I think. So probably still a few tickets left.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool opportunity. Get involved there.
Yeah. All in all, it's definitely gonna be interesting because I believe this ROG Masters is not a sanctioned minor, to the best of my knowledge.
I don't think it is. I think this is just its own event. I don't think this is a part of the Valve. So like points aren't going to come from it then, right? Like it has to be part of that to get points involved. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be entirely an independent event with a very large prize pool for being an independent event. It's got $235,000 up for grabs. Definitely a huge draw for, teams that maybe don't feel like they're ready to even make an attempt at the majors, that feel like they're a minor level team, a mid-minor level team. And, we've already seen that the America's regional qualifier has already started, and VGJ Storm ended up getting that position. So I think that's very nice to see this kind of setup in the place here, and I'm really excited to see what happens going forward.
Yeah, and it's cool to see that with how many events we're talking about with this whole official system that we have, we still have then these other events on top of that, with the ROG Masters, and I know for a fact WESG, I believe, is going to be doing an event again this coming up year.
Yep. Their format's so far in left field that Valve would never sanction it. But
that's another topic. But it's
now
fun.
The one caveat thing I gotta say for ROG, I'm a little disappointed because they've done this over such a long period of time. Their original qualifier rounds were back in July. Their qualifier team from the US region was a thrown together Danish Bears lineup that had 747, Rise, and Flea and Sneaking on it. That's not even a team anymore. So they're going to have to rework some of this and probably just do more direct invites to the qualifier to actually even make this come together at this point, because they don't. Yeah, I don't know. The opening formats were a disaster.
That's interesting you bring that up, because actually that's how VGJ Storm got in, it looks like. That they just became that team, or no? No, never mind. They were ISGG. Okay. I was got that wrong.
So they technically won the qualifier a while ago with 3 members of that roster, so they're fine letting them carry it over. But yeah, I have to imagine they're going to just end up picking for, just doing direct invites to the closed qualifier and just running it. But we'll see.
God, they really are running a qualifier in every single, country. Jesus.
Yeah, the idea was they were going to do a qualifier in every country with teams, and then do a regional, and then do their finals.
Wow.
But yeah, we'll have more info for you as it comes around, guys. It's very vague right now, but we do know there will be a LAN for the Europe close qualifier. That is going to be October 12th and 13th.
Yeah, look forward to that there.
That's all I'm talking about on that. That's enough of that for me.
A month away. A month to feel the hype for that event. Okay, so moving on. Kind of already mentioned this part here, so we'll skip that. More roster announcements. So other roster announcements that we really haven't between gone over last week's show, or obviously that came out really this week. The big one was...
Nope, last. I want to just vent on that. We're skipping that for now.
We'll skip that for now. One is the big one is Tuho picking up Demon. That's that is huge. So this was interesting because this Tuho squad, I was actually curious if this is actually going to continue to be a squad. Apparently it is. So this is actually an official team. Insania, Mikke, Garter, Koikva, they were using Asuna, an up-and-coming player. They then transferred to Pablo for a little bit, the former Alliance guy. And then they just officially picked up Demon as their actual 5th now moving forward here. So,
how many regions has Demon now played in? Because he played in Southeast Asia on TNC and Fnatic. He played one tournament with Infamous, but he didn't move there for it. He played on MVP back when Korea was its own region for a while. Yeah, now Europe.
Did he play in China ever?
I don't believe he ever made it to China.
So China would be the only one then, if that's the case.
China would be the last region he has yet to play an official game with, yeah. But he hasn't lived in South America, so... But yeah, what do you think? I'm honestly going to default to you for your initial opinions on this.
I don't know. Demon's not old, but he's older. He's part of this older crew as far as the Dota scene goes. He's only 27. It's so weird to say. He's only 27 years old. Now I'm looking at this, but so I wasn't overly impressed when he was playing with Complexity, even going back to TNC. I guess I'm not like super duper hyped, but at the same time, I think it's good for Tuho in the sense that they're getting a very experienced player, because that's the biggest thing that he's going to bring, right? Is his ultimate experience of how much he has been through all over the place. So, okay, so here we go. This is now something I've been looking forward to. I was hoping to do it last week, but again, unfortunately, something came up for you. So we'll do it this week, though. And maybe we'll make this a consistent thing of sorts, every month or something like that. But kind of give our personal region rankings of teams in this case, I kind of broke it into 4 different regions. You got NA South America, you have EUCIS, you have Southeast Asia, and then China being these quote-unquote 4 regions here. So the top 5 from each of the regions I think would be fun and makes sense here. So yeah, you ready to do this?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot here. All right. I want to say off the bat, I mean, I haven't put like crazy thought into this, but we'll have fun with it at least. All right, so North America, South America. We'll start with this region here. So for me, I think there is the very obvious Evil Geniuses. Putting them number 1. Number 2, I actually had DC. Number 3, Complexity. Number 4, what was Phoenix? Now we're Mortals. And number 5, I did put DC South America on there.
Okay.
So those were my 5. Part of me was like, do I really even include South America? But I think DCSA potentially it could, be something here. So.
All right. Well, if I had to do one myself, man, this is really just flying off the cuff today. I think you have to put EG as number 1 for now and just see what happens. I think that's a fair statement. Past that, it gets really complicated, but in all honesty, I'd give number 2 to the Dire.
Jesus Christ.
I really would. I think this lineup has such disgusting potential in it with multiple people that have captained before, and they can all give feedback, and PPD is a mature enough captain. He will, A, listen to it, and B, shut it down. If it's bad or not conducive to the team. Number 3, probably given to Complexity. Number 4, I'm giving to Immortals. I'm with you there. I think that roster has potential, and they've got a huge backing. And my number 5 is VGJ Storm.
Okay, so you're leaving out South America completely.
I am. I don't think they're even in the running.
Yeah.
I think there is so much turmoil in that DCSA team that I can't even call them a team right now because I think half of them are going to quit within the next month. And like Infamous just looks weak without any real star players on it anymore. Yeah. I don't know. I absolutely don't think SA is in my top 5.
No DC either.
Nope.
See, DC, I know I had them too, but at the same time, there is part of me that's like, is that too high? But with the players that they have, and I do respect, the fact that they played at TI7 here, and at least they have 3 core players that are coming back. So I feel like it's hard to kind of knock them off as that second top team right now in NA. That's why I put them there. But you just do not think they're going to do well.
I don't. And maybe that could change, but at the moment, I don't think so. I think in all honesty, what's that?
Oh, we both had Complexity at 3 at least. So.
Yep.
What are you going to say, though?
I'm really nervous about the captaining on DC. I think like most of these players don't have any captaining experience. Bulba has some, yes, but I feel like he's a little too passive, and that's why he works great as a coach. He can talk about things calmly and out of the situation, but in the heat of the moment, I don't think he's like a PPD. So just a lot of question marks there. I mean, I could be totally wrong on that. They may come out strong, but at the moment, I'm not putting them in my top 5.
Mm-hmm. All right, so European CIS here. I was just going.
You're gonna put like a bunch of Euro teams in and then go back in and slot the CIS teams, aren't you?
I may have just done that real quickly here, but no, I think.
Do you want me to start this one off?
Got it. Sure, you start it off then if you're ready.
All right. For my 1 seed in Europe right now, yeah, I'm gonna go with OG. There's still some question marks there with No-Tail being moved to the mid lane. Rezo is their carry, but Rezo performed like a monster at TI. And they're playing with this core lineup they've had for a long time. I think that does mean something. And I definitely think it could show potential there for sure.
Real quickly, is Rezo going to be their carry? I thought he was going to play the 2, and then
Is he going to? Okay.
If anything, they're probably going to pull Liquid, right? Where they're going to swap depending on the hero and stuff. So it's probably going to be a 1 and 2 interchanged.
Yeah.
But I think officially right now it is No-Tail staying at the 1.
You can't let me just like run down the same list as you, because I'm going to end up doing that. I'm putting Liquid as my 2, obviously. They're TI winners. People are going to say, why don't you have them number 1? TI winners notoriously lose their hunger after they win a tournament. They quit going as hard. They take a month off. They take some breaks, and that drive can really fall off. I don't think it will for somebody like Kuro, but for somebody like GH, who was so new to the scene, to just blow up and win TI, it's got to be hard to get back in there and then go into a scrim the next week and actually try to give 100%. And I also think the only reason I'm having Liquid as 2 versus like my 5 is that we haven't had a big patch yet. I think if that comes around, could be a monster overhaul, and we'll have to see if Liquid can recover. TI teams notoriously struggle once the next big patch comes because they want to keep playing what won them the tournament. And so I'd have Liquid as my 2. I would have had Empire as my 3, but without Rezo, I think they definitely fall a little bit lower in the tier list.
Wait, you would have Empire as your 3?
I would have had Empire as my 3 if they still had Rezo. If they would have kept him on and had him on there. Yep.
Over VP?
Their team play was so good with Resolution that I think that was way too hard to pass up. I'm with you. I'm probably going to have to take VP as my 3rd. I would have had them as my 4th otherwise, but they showed weaknesses at TI that we weren't used to seeing. We saw no one not crushing every mid matchup he went against. We saw Lil's ganks falling a little flat. It looked a little bit off, and I was actually kind of surprised we didn't see a big roster move out of them. Mm-hmm. So, but still, if I'm looking at this region, it's in such turmoil in general. I think you'd still got to give it to them because they have a stable roster, and it's a group that's played together. For my 4, I'm gonna go way out of left field. They don't even have a name yet. The Tomato Soxa stack.
Okay,
I think it's got Kezu on it, who's performed extremely well for Secret, and for him to make a departure from that team and be on this new roster means something. We don't know if that was an org pressure thing or him wanting to leave, but I can't imagine that was who they wanted to cut. You've got people with a bunch of experience and 2 very up-and-coming players in Tomato and Cancel. I think they hold a lot of potential in this roster, and definitely one I could see doing well going forward.
Yeah.
I don't even want to make a 5. This region sucks. Empire, sure. They had a run at TI. Yeah, they've got to use their old carry, but we'll say Empire.
That old carry that helped them qualify for it in the first place. Yeah. Darn.
I mean, it's not like the region was that strong. Great, they beat Navi and Vega.
Yeah. I mean, Spirit was all right then, too. It was an okay region.
There was competition, sure, but they were definitely a tier above everybody else at the time. But yeah, okay. Those are my 5. What you got, Breaky?
Interesting. All right. OG number 1, and so I was a little surprised. I guess I'm not surprised that you choose them as well, number 1, but no. I can understand if people that hear that may react like, what, they didn't win TI, what the hell? They picked up Resolution. That's almost better than winning TI, let's be honest. No. This year they're the team to beat. I don't care that Liquid won TI. I really feel like OG is going to be the team to beat.
It's not
as
TI
I
anymore.
thought they were last year. Yeah.
OG wins everything that's not TI.
Yeah, no, true. So, and there's 11 majors coming up. I mean, they're the major champions after all.
Could you imagine if they had 11-0 the majors this year? It's not going to happen. It literally can't happen, but that would just be the funniest thing.
Hey, it could happen. Never say never.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, they're number 1 for me. Liquid number 2, because after all, they did win TI8, or TI7, I should say. Hell, they might win TI8, who knows? And the fact now, I do find it interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I still don't think they've 100% clarified their roster. I don't think they've actually come out and said, we are not making any changes. I find that interesting. That might just simply be because they're just leaving their options open for whatever reason. They might be going through contract talks right now. That's very possible too. Mm-hmm. Post TI winning. But that is something to keep in mind. But as of right now, they're my number 2, of course. I put Virtus Pro 3. I kind of get what you're saying. Yes, Virtus Pro did have a little bit of a hiccup of sorts at TI7, or in the sense that maybe they weren't as dominant as we expected at times, but I still feel like this is a team, the fact that they are staying together, similar to Liquid and almost somewhat similar to OG. The whole OG even got better in a lot of ways. But back to Virtus Pro, I think that means something too. They still are a scary force here.
All
so
right,
I have them number 3.
I gotta say, OG did not get better as much as they could have. If Ana had stayed on and Rezo swapped out for No Tail, this would be the team to beat all year. All year. I love No Tail as much as anyone, but he has not performed as a core as well as anyone has given this guy credit for.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that No Tail is not like a top 5 one player even right now, but he is still very good. And the idea that Ana would actually be better, I don't know if I see that.
Ana was way better than No Tail on that team. I will bluntly say that. Ana's Invoker single-handedly won them so many games. But, okay, topic for another week. Once we see some play coming out of OG here. We'll get into that a little more once we see some games.
I did talk about that, where maybe this resolution, maybe we're just hyped because of what he did at TI7. And is he truly this good of a carry? Is he truly like this big of a deal that we're making him out to be? You know, or are we just kind of reacting to how it played out?
Is it results oriented versus
like the theory, the idea I gave was, what if Empire lost 0-2 to EG? What if that happened, and what if it happened as expected there? Would we be sitting here with the same response about resolution?
No, but they didn't, because Rezo played well. I mean,
yeah,
this guy dropped into a lineup he had, in theory, never scrimmed with before TI, and comes in and does this well. I'm not saying it's necessarily putting him at like a top 2 carry, top 3 carry in the world level by any means, but he was so flexible, and we're talking about the early tournaments coming forward where teams are roster shuffling and trying to get used to their new players. And with how well he dropped into a new team and performed, I think that's a huge benefit right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a hype, but perhaps justified in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, it goes back to OG number 1. So I said OG, Liquid, VP. I have Secret as my number 4. Which I am a little, I know, it even kind of makes me go you, because like I said, the reason, it just felt, the whole removing KZU, it just felt weird in the first place, and replacing him with Fata at the 3 position, it's just like, what?
I mean, Fata was one of the better, I would have had Fata on my top 10 mids in the world. Maybe not top 5, but top 10. And then you're moving him to off lane, and Ace is playing your carry. I don't know, this roster just looks weird to me. It looks very weird.
It does look weird, but I do think Secret still, they do have that core. They have the Yap God. They have Mid One, who I've really grew on a lot of last year as one of my favorite mid players to watch. And, you know, Puppy's still in that captain role. So
yep.
I think that all has to kind of come together and mean something, why I have them in the 4. And my 5, I was struggling a lot on this one. I almost did go the Soxa stack, as you were kind of put with your 4 even. Right there, but my biggest issue with them is that, 1, I'm very curious if the leadership is really going to be the best for them, and then 2 is they're very, very young team in a lot of ways. They're kind of bringing all stars together, which could be an issue.
It's going to be like the first ever Secret lineup kind of thing, or the for those that have been around long enough, Team DK lineup out of China. It's every superstar thrown together. That some of them need to still make it work. Some of them still need to do something. I think Weeha fits better in the 4, though, than he does as a mid. And I'm with you, though. It's a very young team, and it's a very emotional team. So they're going to have to ride out the ups and downs for this to work.
Mm-hmm. So instead of them, though, I actually decided to go with Mouse Sports. And might be my Greek pride, I don't know, but this is a team that I gave a lot of flack last year, and I think for good reason, post Boston Matrix, of course. They had that run, and then they just completely died off after that, and they just did not really do much throughout most of the year. But I think the fact that I always like to talk about the consistency of the roster, and the fact that they've stuck together for as long as they have, And I really feel like that also this format coming up of all of these events happening is going to be a very friendly idea for a team like that.
Maus has a very real chance of becoming a team that never makes a major this year, never even attends one, and wins multiple minors.
Yeah.
They have the potential to do that. I don't think they're good enough to stack up internationally against the best of the best international competition at all. I don't even think they're the best in their region by any means, even from a qualifier standpoint where you're talking 2-3 teams deep in their region. But they could run train on minors if none of the T1 teams go.
Yeah, no, it goes back to that idea, not that that's going to be their 100% focus, but maybe that's just how it ends up for a team like that. So
you didn't put Tuho in your top 5? You don't trust your boys?
I mean, I love them and everything, but definitely not in that top 5 spot. They've gotten knocked out of a couple of open qualifiers already. I think they still have work to do here before we're talking about that. But they have potential. They do have potential. So they would be in my top 10 maybe. I would actually have to think about that. But yeah. So that rounds up my top 5 for that.
I don't even want to do this next region. Every time we've done this, it's been terrible.
I know. We have to do something though, because then
Can
we have
do
to
top
look.
3?
We have to look back at it and be like, "Oh yeah, we were really stupid. Like that was
Can we do
wrong
top 3?
choice." I mean,
How do you pick 5 from this region?
Let's do top 3. Fine. We'll do top 3 for Southeast Asia here.
Good.
All right.
This makes it easier.
Okay. Well, what do you have then?
I'd have Fnatic as my number 1, TNC as my 2, and Mineski as my 3. Fnatic only because SEA always has had this great region competition in and amongst itself, but struggles to get out of anything once it turns international. Fnatic's basically an international team coming in to destroy the region. I really do think they're going to be able to do it. Even though they technically didn't get out of groups in the last thing they played, they won 2 of their 3 games, and they were looking pretty good. They're winning games in very late game situations, which is something SEA has struggled with for a while. So Fnatic's definitely my 1. It's just too hard to give TNC anything less than the 2 slot with Theban staying out there. I think he just gels super well with them. He's brought them to a new level, and he's teaching them alternate ways to play Dota. And Mineski's a great team for their region. I think they're probably the best pure regional team with no outside influence, but I think they're going to struggle against the international teams coming in.
I'm very close to you that I just swapped my 1 and 2 because I feel like it's hard for me to give it to Fnatic just because of this international squad in a lot of ways coming in, and with what they're bringing to the table. Yes, on paper, potentially it's going to be a great lineup, but I still have a lot of respect for TNC. And you know this, obviously with TI7, love Cuckoo, love Raven. I think 143.7 is doing a great job in the captain role. I see no reason to dethrone them from Southeast Asia just because this team's coming in. So I still have them number 1. Fnatic is my number 2, though. And then, Mineski at the number 3. They had the impressive run in the Southeast Asian qualifiers for TI7. I believe, they got knocked out in the last match there to... God, what was the team that ended up going? Now I'm blanking. Who went to TI7 out of Southeast Asia? It was... Wow, I can't... Oh, Execration, that's what it was.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, so then I will say there is a worthy one to bring up, though, I guess we're only doing top 3, but WG Unity. This team kind of coming back, the organization at least, but you got Miracle, Furo, Velo, Screen, and Fly Solo. I think that's one to kind of look out for at least in the region there and see what they can do. But yeah, those would be my top 3 then. Came into that. And then there's China. I don't... Where do we go with China? Because they had so many... So they had a lot of roster changes. I will say... Newbie and LFY have to be 1 and 2, right?
Probably.
It's like, who knows, right?
Newbie, yes. I think Newbie's my number 1. We can do this one as a group because I think this is going to get weird. I'm probably giving it to LGD, like actual LGD, not FY. I think FY had a miracle run. I think everything gelled for them. It worked well. I don't see it repeating. I think they're still good. I just don't necessarily see it going that well.
My biggest thing is that, the reason I said that, because not only are they the 2-3 teams from TI7, but they were also like the only Chinese teams to not have any roster changes.
True.
So they have the same roster, and we know that works. But so you would possibly throw LGD up there too, though.
Who did LGD change in their roster?
What was it? 11 is no longer there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
FY replaced him, I believe. Yeah.
Which, to be honest, FY is pretty good, but
of course.
Okay, yeah, newbie one is fine, or not? Yeah, newbie one is fine. I'm agreeing with you there. FY could be good. It's just there's so many question marks. Like Afu played out of his mind, but he struggled in tournaments prior to TI. Definitely had some weak moments. And all right. How about this? Newbie 1 ? 2 through 5. No, I don't know, man. You've got VGJ Thunder's got a pretty solid lineup with ROTK as the coach. That could mean a lot going forward. Like, they've got some old school players in Sylar, and then they've got, like, Ghost has been around just for a year or so now and done some cool things.
Have they actually played qualifiers yet? I don't know if they have. I don't think they have, no. I was trying to find some results. Haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah. I mean, you've got, like, eHome's got Old Chicken, Faith Beyond, Y. Like, that's still a pretty stacked roster. Even CTY has done some cool things. He's been a monster in his day.
I'm excited to see Faith Beyond back.
Yeah.
I'll play with eHome here.
Faith's one of, like, my favorite Chinese players to watch.
Yeah. Well,
and then you got to look at where 11 went to, right? If he's leaving, it's for a good reason. Now he's got Paparazzi and Lanham on his back. Mm-hmm. I'm probably... Okay, my number 2 is VG. That lineup actually just looks filthy. Like
Paparazzi, Ori, 11, Lanham, and Fenrir.
Like, Lanham took some time off, went and got married, went and did his own thing, and then came back coaching eHome, then playing for eHome. I think this guy's still got a lot of Dota left in him. And, yeah, this lineup is... just got too many names. Way too many names.
All right. Beachy Gaming, one to look out for. Out of China,
all right,
perhaps.
I'm just going to straight rank and not give a reason from here on out and just see what happens. All right. I got Newbie, Vici, VGJ Thunder, LFY, LGD. Those are my 5 in that order.
Okay.
I
got Newbie, LFY.
I know, right? I just had to start listing. Like,
IG, Vici, and eHome. No LGD. They're overrated.
Ouch.
I have no basis off of that whatsoever.
Yeah, we're obviously Chinese experts here.
Yeah, no, this region's always been like that, though. At least late. I mean, last year was the same way. Like
maybe in the next week or two, we need to try to get Jack on for just like a 10-minute "What's Going On in China" segment and just have him rank them.
Oh, it was great having him on. Yeah, when I got him on to talk before TI7, there, he is very knowledgeable about that. So.
All right, we got one last little piece to get through.
Yeah, let's do that here. We'll have some fun with this here. So again, as I mentioned at the end of the last week's show, I wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of get involved in the podcast in some ways as well. And I figured a fun way to do it would be by giving your bold predictions.
And some of these are so good.
We got a couple of them, so we'll go over these here and give our thoughts. Again, you do it by, and we'll keep doing these on future shows as well if we have fun with it. It's all you do is you tweet it out, your bold prediction, with the hashtag #ProBold. You can at myself as well, at Zrock, whatever, and we'll talk about it if you see it here. So we got a couple. The first one, we'll start with this one. Complexity will win at least 2 lands, from Lion Main here on Twitter. Complexity will win at least 2 lands. There are a lot of lands.
There are a lot of lands. Okay. It's a bold prediction until you decide what the timeline is. Complexity will probably win 2 more lands in their existence as an organization. Will they win them in the next year? I don't know.
I assume he meant the year coming
up. I mean, with this roster, I don't know. I mean, with this roster, I could see Complexity winning a minor or two. I do not think this is unreasonable. I think they have the right people for it, finally. We have people that we know get along with Swindle Melons long enough to be there for more than a month. They've got the talent behind them. So, I think this prediction's possible.
I do too. Because I had to remind, like, again, being a fanboy and everything, am I being biased by agreeing with this? Because of how many events there are, I think it's very possible. If we were to go back to last year, with the same roster, but if we were to go back to last year with the format that we're using, I don't know if I would be as confident in saying that at the beginning there. But because we've already seen a little bit of the King's Cup, they have been looking already fairly impressive. This roster does gel. There is potential, and I think I am leaning towards 2 minors for sure. I don't know. I want to stay off from saying that they're going to be winning a major LAN. But who knows?
I think a bolder prediction would literally be saying top 8 at a major even. I don't even... For a 16-team major, that needs to be qualified because we're going to have some 8-team majors. But I think they have a better shot of winning 2 minors than getting top 8 in a major.
I don't know about that because I still think the minors are going to have legitimate teams. I mean, hell, we already won our first one as EG and LGD as the invite teams. Like, they're still going to be very difficult events. So if they're going to be able to potentially win one of those, then... I think top 8 in a major is worthy.
Yeah, possible. But I like the prediction. It was bold enough to get some discussion, and but I think it is plausible. I'm not going to say that one's overly bold.
There you go. That's what we're looking for. So something along those lines. This is another one that we got here. Found fun from Braden Smith. So Team Secret will be a top 5 Western team, but Evil Geniuses won't be. How about that? Notice I said a Western team, not even just European.
Yeah, so you're counting all of the Americas. You're counting all of... that implies everything except China.
Yeah.
If you want to be like China and Southeast Asia. So... I don't even see Secret being a top 5 Western team. Nevertheless, EG not being there. I think EG not being there is more plausible than Secret being there. Like, the Secret roster is untested. I think they kept the worst fragments of the roster aside from Puppy and Yapsor. Like, the other 3 on that are just not that great to me. And top 5 is going to be very contested.
Yeah. I think I'm with you in the sense that I could see Evil Geniuses dropping off as a top 5 Western team, but the likelihood that Secret will be a top 5 Western team, I just cannot see. And again, we talked about that when the roster announcement came out in the first place. It's just something about this team just feels off. And I don't know if I could see that happening, but a bold prediction indeed by Braden Smith here.
Oh, man. Yeah, that one's great because if it wasn't 2-parted, I think parts of it could be okay, but no, as a joint prediction, no. I would say there's a 0% chance of that happening.
Yeah.
Oh man, keep these coming though, guys. They're really entertaining. I'm hoping we get about 5 for next week's.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have 100 and we have to pick 5. But
there you go. Again, hashtag .pro bold if you want to submit in the future episodes here. All right, I think we are winding down, though. We actually got through pretty much everything we wanted to, which is good.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about, as expected, and next week is already setting up to be another busy show.
Really is. I think every week is going to be a busy week in this season.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
And that's a good problem to have, right? So, as always, guys, I want to thank you for tuning into the .pro show. With myself here, joined by Zrock, of course. Big shout out to Black for joining us early on as well. Fun to hear about how things are going for him, how Faceless went last year, and again, his future. Like I said at the beginning too, I hope and I'm sure he will find a place on a team. He's been dominating the OpenAI bot and looking pretty good in FPL as well. So
it's funny seeing the tweets from the pros that have access to it. Somebody had said they tried 100 games and finally beat it without cheese straight up. He had like 4 health left in the man up situation where they just beat on each other. It was nuts.
Seems difficult, man.
It was a good show. I'm glad I could be here. Can't wait to be back.
More Dota 2 competitive news coming at you next week's show once again. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, have a good night.